Step into the breathtaking, light-filled world of Jewel Changi Airport with me and Renjie as we uncover the edible souvenirs to remember your Singaporean trip. So RJ, from Kampong Glam, we decided to go east of Singapore and then talk about Jewel at Changi. Now, a few years ago, there was absolutely nothing on this land.
No.
So, to describe Jewel at Changi, you used three words or three phrases, right? One was breathtaking, one was extremely light filled, and another one was souvenirs.
Yes.
Right. So, walk us through these three things. Why did these three things come to your mind?
So I'm sure you've been to Jewel.
Yep.
But for people who haven't been to Jewel, what's worth describing it, even though I probably wouldn't do it justice, is to explain that Jewel is a compound, it's a complex that's attached to the airport. So it's part of the airport, Changi Airport, when you fly into Singapore. And it's this incredible light-filled structure that's just full of glass, and it's a dome, right? But when you walk into Jewel, two things you immediately notice. The first is you have this incredible water feature. It's a waterfall that comes right down the center of the dome from the ceiling, right? And it's actually the world's tallest indoor waterfall, fun fact. And the second tallest indoor waterfall in the world is?
I don't know.
It's actually at Gardens by the Bay.
Oh, yeah?
So we've like taken over this like tallest indoor waterfall
Yeah, so
feature.
if someone were to just make something closer to that, you still have those titles.
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
top three stay with you.
Absolutely. So you see this beautiful water feature down the middle. But the second thing that you notice is surrounding the water feature is an entire forest floor. It's literally called the forest floor because there are 63,000 plants that have been planted all around it, including 3,000 trees. So it literally feels like a forest floor.
Inside of
Absolutely,
this
yeah.
Jewel.
So it really feels like you're walking in a forest with a magical waterfall coming down the center. But the best part is there's AC, which is very
you
important.
mentioned this air conditioning or aircon thing
my
a lot.
goodness.
So
Yeah.
I mean, you require AC. Right?
It's important. It's important. But yeah, so that's what Jewel is. So and it's light filled. It's really breathtaking. And you know, it first opened when I was living in the US, and I saw my friends posting pictures of it, and I thought to myself, okay, it's really good editing on my friend's part. You know, whatever filter that they're using, let me try it out. And then when I finally went back to see it in Singapore, I was like, oh no, it really looks like this. It's truly breathtaking for what it is. Yeah.
But why was the Jewel built and why is it so close to the airport? Like, what's the point of having, because people come to the airport and go to the city.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of having Jewel close to the airport?
So one of the reasons, apart from it just being an amazing place for Singaporeans to hang out and play, is a lot of people fly through Singapore onward elsewhere, wherever it is they're going, right? And with long layovers, you kind of want something to do rather than just being trapped within the airport. And of course, Singapore's airport is not small by any means.
Well, I guess there's everything. There's a gym, there's a movie theater, there's a food street stall.
Butterfly Park.
Yeah.
So because it wasn't enough, clearly, we've decided to add on this other thing to really just encourage people to step out and have something to do with their time, right? And nothing is rejuvenating, especially in the context of flying long distances, like nature, like water feature. And so the fun fact also is that where it is right now, it used to be a car park, like an outdoor parking lot. And when we were looking at what we could do with a space like that, we thought, okay, you know, parking lot, we can always put it elsewhere. We can always build it underground. We can always, but what would something truly game-changing be, you know, to put in its place, and something that visitors could actually really benefit from. We've decided to create essentially a whole complex around this water feature. And it's not just a water feature, it's not just the plants, but it's also a bunch of restaurants and shops and boutiques. So some of the best shopping, I will say, is at the airport in Singapore.
Something you can do out there.
Yeah.
I was amazed at the food choices that you have there, the shopping choices that you have there. And it's a great place to just spend your day. But you know, one of the things that I really like about Singapore is this vision, right? Turning a car park into something like the Jewel. And now often Jewel is like the top thing that someone wants to do on their Singapore itinerary. Now the third thing you mentioned was souvenirs.
Yes.
Like, what did you mean by that?
So, okay, Neil, you and I are both foodies, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's the same with you, but when I travel, actually the main thing that I get as souvenirs for my friends and family back home is food, right? For them to taste,
I
what
do
the
that
destination.
all the time.
Absolutely. And one of the things I find most amazing about Jewel is that it's full of places where you can buy very iconic Singaporean souvenirs that are edible, right? So food souvenirs.
What are some examples?
Okay, so my favorite place of all that I always go is a place called Bengawan Solo.
Bengawan Solo.
Yes.
What do you get there?
Bengawan Solo is a traditional Singaporean bakery, right? Or like a patisserie bakery kind of
Yeah.
situation. It's a heritage brand. It's a big chain, so they have locations all across Singapore. But they have a beautiful one at Jewel Changi, and they sell a whole range of very traditional Singaporean snacks, little sort of like chewy little bites, desserts and so on. But the one thing I will say that I always get when I come back from Singapore is the Pandan chiffon cake.
Okay.
So it's like, imagine a chiffon cake, which is like a very, very, very light sponge cake, but infused with the grassy, kind of nutty flavors of pandan. And it's so light that it feels guilt-free, even though there's a lot of calories in there, but we're not going to talk about that. It feels like you're eating air. It's like you're eating a cloud, right? So that's always something that I buy back. But it's also, that's one version of a cake. There's also, for instance, Rich and Good, which is a historically very, very traditional, again, Singaporean bakery, but they're really famous for their Swiss rolls. And so they have a lot of different flavors. Their original outlet is in Kampong Glam, which we talked about in the last episode. And what really is amazing there is their mango Swiss roll.
Mango Swiss roll.
Exactly. And I know, Indians are very finicky, very, very particular about their mangoes.
I was just going to say that.
But this one, trust me, like trust me on this one. And then I will say also in the basement, another place that I always end up going to before I fly is actually the supermarket.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a supermarket called FairPrice Finest.
FairPrice Finest.
And it's a sprawling supermarket. It essentially colonizes one whole part of the basement, but it has everything from your packaged sweets to snacks to, fresh fruits and vegetables. So I always end up doing my grocery shopping before I leave, before I get on the plane. I end up buying just like bags and bags and bags of snacks and fruits and vegetables just to bring back with me to extend my time in Singapore just a little bit longer. So I will say those are the places I would very much recommend hitting up.
Will I get my marinades and sauces also out there?
100%. So anything that you want, like in the pantry section, you'll get it there. It's a big supermarket.
Okay, so that's Jewel at Changi, right? And that was food shopping.
Yeah.
But what about how about we do another episode on just shopping in
general
Singapore?
shopping?
Yeah. How would you describe that?
Like general shopping in Singapore, I will say, like the thing that stands out in my mind about shopping in Singapore, I find, is that it doesn't feel like conventional shopping. It doesn't feel like shopping.
Okay.
And we can talk more about this. There's probably a lot.
I'm glad you say it that way, because people go there thinking I'm going to get the usual brands at cheaper rates. But I think let's do a complete episode on shopping, because that'll be a deep dive into different things that you can.
It's an
really
experience of its own.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Awesome. Let's do that the next time.
Sounds good.